Hi guys, this is the Saudi Football Fanatics channel. Welcome back. This is a wonderful day as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was victorious against the Republic of China with two wonderful goals from Hassan Kadesh. So we are in a very good mood and let me welcome the team. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
The very good mood is a bit of an exaggeration. I mean, we calculated with this, right, as a 3 point that we must get, but yeah, it was a bit painful to get it, struggling it because of certain events that happened in the first half. So this match would have been a perfect occasion to enhance and improve the goal difference, but yes, the most important thing is obviously the 3 points. So for there, we are very cheerful. But yeah, I could be happier.
Thanks for starting with this negativity and killing the positive mood immediately. I mean, the fighting spirit was very good from the team to actually playing the entire game with 10 men and still controlling the game most of the time and coming from behind to score two, wonderful goals. So well played by Hassan Kadesh. So congratulations to the team. Well, and at this moment, the Kingdom is sitting at the first place of the group. So I think we can be a little bit happier now.
I don't think so, because as just Andris mentioned, it was
it's 2-1,
one. Yeah, and China had its opportunities as well. So I'm not so happy with that. Mainly after we saw the match of Japan against China, and we saw how easy an opponent could be this team. After that, only a 1-goal difference victory it's not the best for us, and also, but I think we will talk about the first match as well, on home ground against Indonesia, where we only obtained 1 point. So it's not the start we dreamed of, I think.
Yeah. Just imagine if if Kadesh would have not scored in the last minute in the injury time, then yeah. So that one moment basically could heavily influence the situation, but still this would be a 3 point that is basically compulsory and mandatory to get if Saudi Arabia wants anything. So Jula, I am sorry, but we are not that positive as you.
Well, you can win 2-1 against me, but thankfully the Kingdom won against China with the same score line. So I don't care about your mood. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. My point is that in the long run, no one will remember this match if we qualify for the.
That's true.
What do you think? Will we qualify from this round directly, or will we fight for the third and fourth place? Because we have to know about this qualification procedure, that from this round, from these 6 teams, only the first 2 reaches the World Cup directly, and the third and fourth place we play again in another group stage with other teams. So they will need a longer run to reach the World Cup. So my basic question is, what do you think? Can we reach these top 2 spots in the group, or we should be happy if we can catch the third or fourth place?
Russian.
Saudi League.
My opinion is that, and yeah, I have to say that it's heavily influenced by the first match, so the draw against Indonesia, which was also a bit unfortunate. I believe Saudi Arabia will result around the third or fourth place and go forward to the next qualification stage. But qualifying from the first 2 spots in this round, also I would say something that is reasonable or can happen. I can see that happening, but because of the draw against Indonesia, we have some kind of a handicap now against the top teams in this group. So yeah, from now on, every game which is not probably against Japan, need to be secured.
Well, basically, I agree. I wouldn't exclude the possibility of going through straight. I have the feeling, looking at the starting lineups of the two matches, that maybe Mancini is still testing the players, and I believe that as the time goes on, this team is going to grow stronger. And look, I understand that you may come up with an answer to that he had ample opportunities to test the squad, but I still believe that it may be just a testing phase. Because if you check the two starting lineup, we discussed about this in depth before the start of this podcast, that basically almost two entirely different teams, which cannot be, well, let's say, reasoned with the fact that the two matches are close to each other. So there was absolutely no reason to rest players on the first match.
I agree with that. Yeah, I'm just looking at the table, and yeah, I'm a bit more optimistic because yeah, just for our listeners, so Australia also dropped points against Indonesia, which means that basically I'm quite sure that Japan will win this Group C of the qualification round. But with Austria dropping points, and depending on the currently ongoing game, which is between Japan and Bahrain, we will see what our chance is. But I would say that if Japan beats Bahrain, and that's something which is reasonable to say, then Saudi Arabia will have a kind of a proper chance to land at the second place.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, maybe my only problem with that is that we played against the two weakest teams so far, and against one of them, against Indonesia on home ground, where we lost points. So I think these will be expensive 2 points at the end of this run. But we'll see.
I still agree, and that's I will not change my guess that Saudi Arabia will be probably third in the group, and we must prove ourselves in the fourth round, and not directly qualifying from this round. I do not change, but I'm trying to calculate now all the possibilities, and some advantage for us is that Austria drop points. That's what I wanted to mention here. Probably still all the statements we said will be true. Nonetheless, that we, especially against Bahrain and Australia, we need to win these matches at home ground, definitely.
Yeah, just to take the positives before we go into negativity again. I think that the fighting spirit during this match, and the fact that with 10 men, yes, China had its chances, but basically it is not a surprise that the Kingdom won with 10 men. So I think that's a good message to everyone, that this team is a strong one with fighting spirit. So I think that's very good. And as I said, in the long run, no one will remember how we won against China. We won.
Yeah, and that could add more. That could sometimes add more than a.
And currently we sit
victory
on the top of the table. So yeah.
Yeah, and no, we are not sitting there. Currently, Japan sitting there, but yeah, I think that's for sure that we will sit on the second place at the end of this round, because Japan is playing against Bahrain, so we will not be on the first place. That's for sure. But to another point, you mentioned that Mancini is maybe just trying out the players and different scenarios on the pitch. Maybe we should talk about the reasons of it, because Mancini is here for, I don't know, 6 or 10 months now, so from the beginning of this year. So he had the chance and had the time to try out all the players he need. I think maybe there's another reason of it, that he had to try out more and more players, and the reason could be that the Saudi players who are in the PIF teams, so in the biggest ones, and also in the national team, maybe do not get as many chance in their clubs, as they need to perform on a higher level in the Saudi national team. It's just a guess, and maybe you can share your opinion too about it.
Yeah, valid point. And obviously our original plan was to talk about the transfers, and especially with an aspect what Mark raised, that how that all the arrivals of several international superstars and professionals, how does this fact affect the Saudi national players? And it's a valid point that if you check the starting lineups of both teams, you can draw two consequences easily. One of them is that several, let's say, key players, for example, the goalkeeper, otherwise, and he's not the only one. We could go on with at least 4 to 5 players, but they are not starting players in their team. And I don't mean that they never play, because that's not true. Because of the international competition, there is always some sort of rotation even in Al Hilal. So these players regularly play, but not full time. They are usually substitutes. So this is the one thing that many of the key players of the national team are not starters in their team. Rather, they are squad players. And the second one is, if you check the young talents of the nation, because there are quite some of them. I mean, Radif is a good example, who stormed into the national team. But also there is Al Juvair, of whom you probably heard because of his great performance against Damak, which resulted in Al Hilal's comeback. But in the end, he was loaned out once again to Al Shabab, probably because of the game time issue. So there are two aspects. One is what Mark raised, that key players do not play in their team. And the second one, is there any chance for young talents to break through and to play in the PIF teams? Sorry for this monologue.
Let's say sorry for your question, because we'll not be able to answer that. Yeah, at this moment, and my answer is that not. They will not have proper chances to play in the PIF teams unless they are very world-class, top quality. The simple reason is that the PIF teams are now building so much money, that bringing so many of quality players, and not only players on their peak, but now because of the 2 additional slots granted, basically reserved for young players, they are also qualifying young talents from abroad. It would be very, very difficult. Yeah, it can happen. They can contribute to a PIF team very much. For example, starting from as a substitute and going. So there are chances for that, like in the case of Juvair, or in the case of Radif, and we could tell different names as well. But in general answer to your question, it would be very much difficult. So if I would be a young Saudi talent, I would probably check out the teams below the PIF teams,
or below that, maybe
or
only only in the lower table, because if you just check the newly promoted teams, just like Vatsia, they already signed a lot of international players. But for example, in case of other smaller teams, if you just check on their transfers, there are a lot more Saudi players than in case of the mid-table teams or the higher-end teams. So I think only they can calculate with the small teams.
I agree, and that's their, because yeah, in the case of each young player, the most important is playing time, and in that teams that's guaranteed, or not guaranteed, but they have chances to go into the starting squad in each matches. But I believe that's all. That's how it ends, and only the top of these young talents will have the chance to be signed by a PIF team as a regular player. But starting in a PIF team, look at Europe, for example. It's very difficult, even for a young local academy player in Real Madrid, for example, or Liverpool, to directly go into the squad. But and what about Saudi Arabia, when they are currently in building up, in ramp up phase. The whole league is in ramp up phase. They are just buying so many very, very quality players from abroad that their focus point is currently not on granting too many playing minutes for young talents in their top teams, bro.
But it's good that you raised this point of Real Madrid. Honestly, it's not very different anywhere else in the world. So maybe it's just the sign of the times that the league advanced to the next level, so that local players have an issue getting into the team because of the competition is now much more tougher than it was before. And it may be a good sign overall because of the quality of the league, and the competition has raised significantly. But if you recall the names I mentioned, I think it's quite good for these players to play in teams like Al Shabaab or Al Ettifaq, who have serious objectives. So yes, they are not PIF teams, but they are very strong teams in the league. And even if Al Jubair or Radif can play in these teams regularly, that's good. Question is, what happens with the rest of the Al Hilal and the Al Nassr team, who still give a lot of players to the international team and they do not play regularly? I mean, especially for the goalkeeper, it's a little bit of a concern.
I agree. As long as they can play, I don't know, as many minutes as possible, the better for the Saudi national team. And that is currently granted in teams below the PIF teams. But if they can get even higher and higher, so to the levels of the best of this category, like Shabab, like Ettifaq, or even now we can say that already that probably Qadsiya, then the best for them. But obviously they also have a chance to prove themselves in teams like Khalid, like Riyadh. So the most important for them is playing minutes.
Yeah, but and to see the other side of the coin, probably after today's game, neither Kano nor Lajami strengthened his claim for a starting spot in their teams.
yeah, that's true. But these are two players which is very difficult to exchange to others. They are very regular starters, and that's not an accident. So currently, what Saudi League would need to work on, and that is how they can support the national team, is to produce as many talents. So they have to build up not only, and that's what they are doing. But obviously, it takes time to build up the infrastructure, build up the academy system, and from that point onwards, there would not be only 15 or 20 Saudi players that could play in the national team, but it would have a wider pool of talents and quality players.
Yeah, but I don't think that the situation is very bad, because if you check Al Hilal, they already focus pretty much on this aspect, and it's good that they send these talented players on loan to the other teams so they can develop.
But I don't want to check Al Hilal. I mean, the whole national team is based on Al Hilal, so the exact point is that all the other teams need to contribute.
Yeah, that's true. I cannot really argue with that.
Yeah, and they will have a chance, just to go back to the national team itself, in October, because I just checked it, and the next matches will be held in Jeddah, both of them. And maybe these two will be the most important ones, because we will play against Japan firstly, and after that in 5 days against Bahrain. So two of the other leaders of the group. So these will be crucial ones as well.
Roshan!
Saudi League.
We will obviously follow those matches. Thank you for this. And if you don't mind, probably we should close this podcast before we start talking about transfers or fantasy, Russian Saudi League. So if you have no other points, I think we had a very, very good discussion about the national team and the prospects of local Saudi talents. If you have nothing to add, I think I will just close this episode.
Sure, you feel free.
Then thank you, guys. We will continue shortly with further episodes on the aforementioned topics. And also thanks to our listeners. If you liked this content and if you like our contents, please hit the like button and follow us on our social media sites as well. We are available on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram too. And we make a lot of summaries and other hopefully quality content to help you navigate the Ocean Saudi League on the aforementioned forum. So please check it out and see you soon. Cheers.